It's really great to be in Malta today. It's my first time in the country. As Deepak said, I am the founder of Nesta Holding Co., a private equity firm focused on the cannabis opportunities in the space, and also a founder and current chairman of Oxley Cannabis Group. This morning, I'd like to explore how I believe the launch of derivative products in the adult use and medical markets in Canada will have a positive impact on the global cannabis jurisdictions around the world. And I'll draw on some of the great work that Oxley is doing in this area to provide some context around my views. Briefly on Oxley, we're dedicated to bringing cannabis products to the medical, wellness, and adult markets, leveraging strong clinical, scientific, and operating capabilities, as well as leading product research and development infrastructure. And our vision is to be a global cannabis leader, focus on providing branded cannabis products backed by science and innovation. So let me unpack that a little bit, on why I think that matters for medical cannabis advancement. By developing innovative products backed by science, we are adding to the cannabis data set for global policymakers. And we've heard earlier today how having more research and data is really important to be able to advance policy in many places. And for Oxley, it all starts with 2.0 products. As soon as these derivative products hit the market in December in Canada, and we achieve this with a combination of our DoseCann facility, where we house in-house analytical testing, extraction, R&D, product development and manufacturing infrastructure and capabilities, and then we combine that with the team that we have at KGK Science, our wholly owned, full-service contract research organization, or CRO for short, which has over 20 years of experience in nutritional and cannabinoid scientific research, whereby KGK, through its Health Canada-granted cannabis research license, will be able to conduct human clinical trials. Now, I'm sure many, if not all of you, know Canada's path towards legalization. And there's been a lot of focus, particularly in the media and in Canada domestically, on how the adult use side of these new upcoming derivative product sets are going to impact the market. But I think what's missed is how Canada's 2.0 legalization, or Phase 2 legalization, as some like to say, will be enabling significant advancements in medical cannabis research by way of the various new product classes that have been created and essentially legalized coming in December of this year. And these include, edible cannabis, whether it's ingested or drank, like cannabis extracts for ingesting, cannabis extracts for inhalation, as well as cannabis topicals for either, skin, hair, or nails. These new classes of products provide a lot of space for targeted medical formats, formulations, and dosages, I think allowing for a much better patient experience and ultimately for better outcomes. And that knowledge and market data, it will feed into other medical cannabis regimes. At Oxley, we've been focused on really having a wide product launch into this new format with 83 new SKUs targeted for that we filed new product notices on for October 17th to be ready for launch later this year. And we're going to be leveraging this KGK and DoseCann partnership combination for research and claim substantiation, as well as PK studies over time, which we believe will be a big differentiator, especially in jurisdictions unlike Canada, where substantiated claims might be promotable in the future. For those who might not be familiar with what a PK study is, I didn't know the term about a year and a half ago. Pharmacokinetics, PK for short, is what the body does to a drug. It refers to the movement of a drug into, through, and basically out of your body. That includes time of course of absorption, bioavailability, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. And just like vitamins or over-the-counter drugs like Tylenol, profiling is an important part of product science. When doctors make recommendations or prescribe to patients, they obviously want as much science-based data as possible. And this has been an area of certainly complaint both in Canada and we see it continues around the world. There is a lot of cannabis research, but it's not in the kind of format that medical prescribers tend to want to see. And obviously it's a far bigger issue, but we have to make steps towards that. And so, we all take compounds and drugs for our health and for desired outcomes, but it's important to know how long that product is going to stay in your system and what dose to take. These are all part of a safety profile, so consumers know, how much of the product they can use safely. We want the same standards for cannabis, as we have for vitamins, prescription drugs. And with research and time, our goal is to help consumers be educated about cannabis as they are, as educated about cannabis as they are about vitamins and any other over-the-counter drug that you might use. For example, a very simple example, but I think most people know that you can't overdose on vitamin C. If you take too much vitamin C, the reason for that is just it's water soluble, and so the excess vitamin C will just pass through your system and won't be stored in your body. And so it's not going to hurt you, but it's a waste of money. And so in a similar fashion, PK studies for cannabis will lead to more sensible product use and better outcomes. And so I believe the next wave of 2.0 products will be one of the larger regulatory and policy catalysts for the over 50 countries globally that have some cannabis programs in some form, expand and bolster the regulatory regimes by being able to lean on Canada's lessons learned as we launch these new derivative product sets. Part of the reason Canada delayed these new products to 1 year past legalization was because of the immense regulatory burden that this would impose on our regulator, Health Canada, to not only regulate the launch of a brand new legal environment, but the wide range of attributes and product types that would hit the market. For example, any new product launched under the Canadian Cannabis Act has to be submitted through what is a new product notification process, where producers give the regulator 60 days heads up, if you will, on new products coming to market. It's ultimately up to the producers to comply with the regulations, but this notice period gives our regulator, that 2 months to make sure that they can look for any kind of egregious or, the outlier attempts of where people are pushing the regulations too far. Some of these attributes that have to be submitted are, as you'd expect, the name of the product, ingredients, cannabinoid profiles. But, there's other things like the shape, flavor, as well as even images, pictures of the product, both with and without packaging, to make sure it doesn't appeal to youth or really have any kind of, lifestyle effect that would contravene regulations. And so, we had over 1,000 new product notices that were filed by the collective Canadian industry, we believe, on October 17th. And over the next year, people estimate that several new 1,000 SKUs will be also filed. And so you can imagine, why it made sense for the regulator to delay this from the initial legalization push, as they have to, look at these and use that 2-month head start to make sure that we have a smooth and orderly rollout. Companies have to pick how far they want to push those regulations, because even naming something, Oxley is going with chewables for soft, edible products versus a gummy because of that association, or even flavors. Will a mango-flavored vape be offside, right? It ultimately, there's regulations, then there's how those regulations are interpreted and enforced. And, collectively, this set of new products, launched into Canada, is going to provide precedence, both the regulations and the enforcement of those regulations and public reaction to those products will present for other jurisdictions to build on. Because ultimately, we're always building on each other's jurisdictions and learnings over time. And so just as Canada, when we were looking at our legalization task force a few years ago, looked at the Colorado experience and other U.S. state legal jurisdictions when they were looking at edible dosing, we really thought to learn from those early mistakes where packages had 10 doses in one container versus individually wrapped doses, that the rest of the world will learn from Canada. Lastly, I believe we're going to see an expansion of that large middle section of wellness products, really in between kind of pure adult use rec products and pure medical. This has the potential of being a material expansion to the cannabis market as we begin to see the results of combinations of cannabis with other APIs to create new novel product formats backed by research and science. It's still early days in the scale of possibilities of advanced derivative cannabis products, but I think this category will apply a leverage to the global medical cannabis momentum. And it all starts in a big way with new derivative products coming out next month in Canada. So with that momentum, here we are in Europe. With Imperial Brand's strategic investment into Oxley earlier this year, choosing Oxley as its exclusive cannabis partner globally, we're able to leverage that global footprint to try to execute quicker in new jurisdictions around the world as medical policy changes develop. And with the current derivative and advanced derivative products to come, I think the potential opportunities are obviously really exciting for everybody. Personally, speaking about Europe, I see more advanced markets where, clearly cultivation and vertical integration are not necessarily a requirement. And I think being able to look and enter the market in a specific value segment is hugely valuable in a maturing industry. To be able to do everything and also do everything incredibly well is a rare thing, and I think we're seeing that in some of the markets today. Obviously, I look forward to the Canadian industry writ large being able to really bring that science-backed products and IP to emerging European jurisdictions. But what I really hope is that policy development in the EU, as well as globally, can see some jurisdictions embrace the benefits of allowing marketing of substantiated claims for better patient and public education, as well as providing a great incentive, obviously, for additional research. I think, Canada had to start with a very kind of, take it slow and start from a safe position, being able to not even attach substantiated claims to products. But I think it definitely doesn't serve the customers well over time, and I think Canada will, as the rest of the world takes our regulation, remixes it, and improves upon, I think we will see a loosening of that, because ultimately when somebody is looking at a product for a wellness or medical application, they kind of want to know what the research is behind that product, and that's currently hidden. You can do the work, you can publish the papers, you can provide that information to government agencies or retailers on a B2B exemption, but the consumer themselves not able to access that data. And I think that's something that that Canada will see fixed, and I really call on all policymakers around the world to hopefully do their part and then show Canada how that can be done. And if PK and claim studies can become de facto standards in many jurisdictions, I think it really raises the bar on the table stakes of what it's going to take to launch a cannabis product. And ultimately, in the end, that's really going to most benefit the end consumers. Thank you very much. Great, thanks.
Time for one question. If anyone has a question, put up your hand and we'll take it. There's a question right here.
Thank you for your talk. I would like to understand, you do PK study for wellness products, and what are you looking for?
Well, right now, in Canada, with the new derivative products being launched, essentially legalized October 17th, and the earliest launch date being December 16th next month, those studies are not currently in place. But the reason Oxley sought and acquired KGK as a contract research organization over a year ago was to make sure we had those capabilities in place. Now these products are legal and available, and now that we have a research license to be able to do human clinical trials, to be able to start that research alongside our products so that the next generation of those products, and as we see what I think advanced derivative products coming into place, combining other APIs and cannabis together, we'll be able to start adding to that body of research. So it is still early days, but I'm really excited that we have the building blocks in place to be able to, today we have the licenses and the abilities, the capabilities to start building that research and putting it out into the world.
Thank you, Chuck. That was great.
Thank you very much.